Rassie Erasmus is known as one of rugby's greatest masterminds, a man that is always two, three, 4 steps ahead of everybody else. But after the loss that the Springboks had up against the Wallabies, I couldn't help but think, did Rassie actually outplay himself this time? He admitted that the team to play in the second test had already been named prior to the first test even taking place. Now, on paper, that sounds like confidence, but after losing by 38 points, yes, 38 points, not getting a single point in the second half, and suffering one of the heaviest defeats that the Springboks have had in God knows how long, you have to ask, is it confidence or was it overconfidence? And could that mindset have cost the Springboks the first test? Now, there's a couple of different ways to look at this, right? Overconfidence can set in. Yes. Players knowing that they are going to be playing in the second team. Yes. But complacency can also set in here, right? I also find that when Rassie has named his team, he's looking at the game as if he has already beaten the Wallabies. This is the team that's going to be playing in the second test. Look at what happened. The Wallabies gave South Africa an absolute hiding, one to remember, at our own fortress. And what happens? Oh, you know what? Now we need to change. As we saw just earlier today, Rassie Erasmus has named a change squad. I believe there's 18 changes that were made to the first, to the first test. Now, taking into consideration, there were 4 players that are out injured: Pieter Stef de Toy, Edwil van der Merwe, Kurtley Arendse, and then it was Sia Khaleesi, right? So 4 players, okay, fair enough. These players not going to be playing because of injury. Fair enough. But what about the rest? You have now had to change your entire system. Everybody who was expecting to play in the second test, a good portion of them probably are not playing anymore, right? 5 players were kept on. But is that good enough? The Springboks have gone for a completely different system now. The Springboks thought that they could take the Wallabies to altitude and outplay them, outrun them. They wanted to tire them out. And look at what happened. The Wallabies were up to the test. They took it out wide. Max Jorgensen made an absolute mockery of us on the wings. Fraser McWright made an absolute mockery of us in the breakdowns. Harry Wilson. I mean, in what world is Harry Wilson outrunning Springboks? I don't want to sound bad or negative against the Wallabies because they deserve to win that game. But at what point is Harry Wilson outpacing the Springboks? There wasn't fight. There wasn't that desire for it. So this has me thinking, what's going on here? The squad that was released just earlier today, we've seen that we've gone back to a 6-2 instead of a 5-3, which South Africa played in the first game. We're seeing a lot of physicality. We are seeing Archie Snyman. We are seeing Ruan Norgia. We are seeing Thomas du Toit coming in at tight head. Oxenche and Malcolm Marx keeping their positions. But having someone like Archie Snyman and Norgia is definitely going to help in that line-up success. Honestly, Malcolm Marx had an absolutely horrendous game. I think he had like 60% line out successful passes, which is just absolutely ridiculous, especially for a player of his quality. We need to be more dominant. But what I also found was the Springboks in the first test, they didn't play with our DNA. They didn't play with our style, with our, our oomph. They tried to play something foreign to us. They tried to outplay the Wallabies. They tried and failed. They shifted away. They tried to play ball to hand unnecessarily, and we got spanked for it. We were not dominant in our lineouts. We were not dominant in our scrums. We were not slowing the game down. We were at points meeting the Wallabies. We are meeting the Wallabies, which it shouldn't happen. But also at the same time, I do feel that Rassie Erasmus was overconfident in the Springboks, thinking that they are not going to be able to come into South Africa and put in a performance like they did. Honestly, I wasn't expecting either. But as a head coach, and he took the blame for it as well, so did the players, but they need to do better. I do think that they were missing a big player in Damian Dialende, his passing ability, his ball carrying ability. We were missing him quite a lot. But the likes of Cheslin Colby coming back into the squad, I am liking the fact that Kanan Moody is going to be starting as well. Same thing with Willie LaRue, Andre Pollard. So there's a lot of players that's going to be on show here that's really going to be able to, you know, keep the squad gel together, keep that strong defensive line, and then be able to play out. I mean, we look at the Springboks kick to rucks. That was practically non-existent. We need to get back to our system. We need to get back to our DNA. And I think Rassie's kind of understanding what needs to be done. Hence the team that's playing this weekend. Hence the team that was announced. Hopefully there's no injuries. And obviously, losing players like Peter Steph du Toit, Sia Khaleesi is never an easy thing to have. But having players like Damian Dialende and Cheslin Colby come back into the fray, having a player like Mapimpi coming into the fray as well, he's definitely another leader. He's got that experience as well. He didn't get picked for the squad, but you know, just in case there's any injuries or anything like that. But I mean, seeing the likes of Thomas du Toit, Wilco Low, Martinus van der Merwe, you know, it's just like, wow, we are back here. Eben Etzebeth on the bench, Lua de Jager on the bench as well. So you know we're going to be bringing on that bomb squad and really going to be forcing that pressure on the Wallabies. I think this was a very, very big wake up call for the Springboks. I think the Springboks were over their head. They were in the clouds. Honestly, I got to take blame for this for myself as well. I was the same. You know, I was overconfident in the Boks. You know, looking back at it, you know, I was of the opinion that the Springboks were too fast, too strong, you know, too dominant at the breakdown. That although I gave the Wallabies respect, I didn't give them enough, and they showed everybody why. They showed everybody why they deserve to be where they are. So look, Rassie, he often plays the long term strategies. I mean, resting players, rotating squads, testing depth before World Cups. You know, he did have to deal with four injuries, and honestly, from his perspective, preparing two teams in advance allows for clarity, not necessarily overconfidence. But when you are looking at what happened, I do feel that Rassie and the Springboks they overlooked they overlooked the Wallabies, which is something you should never do. You should never ever do. So this is me coming not necessarily as a fan of the Springboks. This is me coming as a fan of rugby. You're trying to see an outside perspective of it, and I think nobody's perfect. You are gonna want to, you know, play. Teams are gonna be overconfident at points. Um, But I feel this was a very big a very big learning point for the Springboks and a very big wake up call as well to show they are not unbeatable. They are human. And the Wallabies will happily give you a spanking like you're a bloody 4-year-old kid stealing a candy bar if you give them if you give them a chance. So look, Rassie's plan in the first test was wrong. He prepared for it wrong. Um, Obviously, you won't know that until the game has actually been played as it did, but he's learned from it. They're going back to our DNA, they're going back to the physicality. So it's going to be interesting to see how this next game is going to play out and whether Fraser McWright and Harry Wilson is going to be having such a dominant performance like they had in the first test. So, guys, please drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.